Welcome to Global Yoga Therapy Day. My name is Beth Novian Hughes, and I'm here to talk to you about yoga and Alzheimer's disease, or dementia, or anything in that general neighborhood. So I'd like to welcome you, and we'll start off by, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey to how I came to work with this population. So I've got some PowerPoint slides here that I'm going to share with you. Yoga and Alzheimer's. What you see here in the opening slide is a tuning fork, and I have a tendency to use these at the end of class to sometimes help with pain. This is an auto tuning fork that I can put on in such a way that I can help with pain, and also I have other sets of tuning forks that I can use to stimulate calm in a body. So I just use this as the opening slide for this, just because it's something that the clients actually like and ask for at times. So this is kind of the beginning of my journey. I began teaching and becoming a yoga practitioner actually in 2005. My journey to becoming an RYT 200 by 2008 was met by a lot of Ashtanga yoga, a lot of what would be considered very difficult, hard yoga to practice. And I was in my early 40s at the time, so it wasn't hard for me to do this. So you can see the ways in which I was able to move my body at that point. And but like most people, as I aged, I found that this didn't work for me long term. It worked for the time, and I still occasionally like a hard practice, but some of the poses here are no longer in my wheelhouse of things that I can do. So I took teacher training and became a yoga teacher in 2008. And while I was working on my advanced certification, I was contacted by an organization called Mercy Care to see if they would be interested in having me come teach there. And this happened at a point in my life where I was beginning to work on my advanced certification, my RYT 500. And my practice, as I went through that program, began to shift and change. I went through the program at Asheville Yoga Center, which allows you to explore various types of yoga. It's not purely their tradition. So I got to explore Ashtanga and its transition into power yoga. I got to also explore restorative yoga, senior yoga, chair yoga, yin yoga, a little bit, meditation, just generally speaking, Sanskrit, and all kinds of things. So I walked away from that certification feeling much more rounded, better rounded as a yoga teacher. I felt like I had more in my wheelhouse than just Ashtanga yoga, just that series of asana and breath and meditation all put together. So this is more where I am right now. These pictures represent more of where I am right now. So when Mercy Care contacted me, I had not yet taken the senior yoga or chair yoga components of my training, and I asked them if they would be willing to wait for me to get through that. And they became my guinea pigs, and they continue to this day to be my greatest supporters along this journey of teaching seniors and of teaching chair yoga. So a little bit about Mercy Care. It is what is called an adult day health program as opposed to adult day care. Because they not only care for their clients. They have nurses on staff that are regularly making sure that needs are met. Blood pressures get taken, vital signs. There's some that require transportation to doctor's appointments. I know of one person that's on dialysis, and so she's got some very special needs. All of the clients there have special needs, really, and that's why they're in a day health program. So we are in, just so you know where I am, I'm in Northwest Georgia, kind of an hour and a half from Atlanta, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So that picture is not the Appalachian Mountains, that's actually the Pyrenees. And I was in Spain when the picture at the top was taken, but nevertheless, love of mountains and of hiking and stuff is not lost on me. So Mercy Care, it's kind of interesting that it's in Northwest Georgia. It's not in a city, but yet they are always on the cutting edge of providing the latest and greatest ideas in care, in senior care, in memory care, and just generally keeping their populations happy and healthy. It's unfortunate that right now they are shut down. They are still going to their clients and taking care of them in their homes as much as they can, but because of the COVID-19, they have not been meeting since March, and I unfortunately have not been there also since March. I look forward to the day when we can all return to space together there. They are funded by the Catholic Church, which gives me a little bit of flexibility in adding various styles of music and things that maybe other centers I would not have that flexibility with. And that's been a godsend in one particular situation that I'll talk about later. No pun intended. So upon finishing that training, and I went and found this, March 2nd, 2011, I taught my first class at Mercy, and it was called Mercy Senior Care at the time. It's now called Mercy Care Rome. And that class was a small group in a room off to the side in a building that they no longer are in. They have, since 2011, purchased an old school, an old elementary school, and renovated it into a beautiful space in which they not only can host their adult day health program, but they also have a program for grandparents who care for their grandchildren, who have custody in some cases of their grandchildren, for adults who have struggled with employment, as they age. So it's a wonderful center, and they provide lots of services. And one of the other things, other than bringing me in 2011 to teach yoga to seniors in 2011 in rural Georgia, they also have become a certified music and memory center. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that impacts what I do a little bit later. So this is a list of some of the other places that I have taught since then. Winthrop Senior Court, Brookdale Senior Living, St. Peter's Episcopal Church is just a general group that mainly is populated by seniors, Renaissance Marquee, Riverwood Senior Living, and Golden Living Senior Nursing Home. I've taught in all of these and probably more if I think about it long and hard enough. I've taught chair yoga classes in all of those places. So before we get too far into what I do with chair yoga and for clients that have Alzheimer's disease, let's just explore this disease just a little bit more. So I got these from the Alzheimer's disease Alzheimer's organization, and you can see, I'm going to use my cursor, I hope you can see this. This is over on the left is a brain without any disease, without any Alzheimer's disease. And then here in the middle is a brain that has advanced Alzheimer's disease. And then here, one is overlaid over the other, and you can see around the edges how those two brains compare. There's a lot of atrophy that happens as Alzheimer's develops in the brain. This is an interesting progression too. Over on the left, you see the earliest bits of Alzheimer's. I think they're in the blue here, down near the brain stem. And this is somebody that it could be 20 years before they get a formal diagnosis. This is what they might see. And then mild to moderate Alzheimer's is generally the last 2 to 10 years. So you can see it's starting to spread a bit and affecting a bit more of the function. And then in late stage Alzheimer's, it's kind of a swirl all the way around. But notice this place in the middle of the brain that's pretty much unaffected. Hold on to that thought. We will come back to that in a little bit. When we're in earliest Alzheimer's, learning and memory is affected, as well as thinking and planning. You can see the two spots where that is. This is the prefrontal cortex. And then as we move into mild to moderate Alzheimer's, it begins to spread. Speaking and understanding speech is affected. I have one client who can speak very well, but she will openly tell you, I don't understand what you just said. And it's just interesting to me that happens. And then over here, your sense of where your body is in relationship to the objects around you, that can also happen. And then in severe Alzheimer's, the brain shrinks dramatically. There's widespread cell death. Individuals lose their ability to communicate, recognize family members, loved ones, or even care for themselves. They often end up in bed, unable to do anything for themselves. But yet we still have this area in the middle that appears to be unaffected. And the Alzheimer's client needs routine, craves routine. They need this in order to really function best. If they don't have routine, they get confused, and so routine helps. They crave the same thing over and over again, and they will forget who you are on the regular. They will forget your name, who you are. I have one client that has been taking yoga with me for over a year, and I can count on every single time I come, she will ask me what yoga is, and we will have to tell her. And that's fine. That's just part of how this works. And they are not to be fought with. When she comes in, and when I come in and she says, what's yoga? I don't say, and this is not her name, yeah, Susie, you know what yoga is. You've been doing this for a long time, because all that's going to do is frustrate her, maybe embarrass her, and possibly lead to some sort of acting out. And we don't want any of that. So, a lot of times you just go with the flow, and you kind of learn their quirks. You can kind of almost anticipate a lot of the behavior. If you've ever seen the movie 50 First Dates, a lot of it is sort of like that in some respects. And if you can go with the flow and just be okay with that, you will be a whole lot less frustrated in working with this population. I highly recommend that. So I just want to go through just a little bit of, from my perspective, how what happened as far as working with this population and working in this center. I started off as a volunteer. When I went back in 2011, when I started, I was a volunteer. And then in 2013, I began a master's degree in yoga therapy at MUIH. And when that happened, I said I needed to step back from this program a bit because I couldn't really do all of it. And by 2014, when I was about halfway through, they called me and asked me if I would please come back And I said, well, I'm not so sure. And they offered to pay me as a consultant. And so I have been paid as a consultant ever since. And I have to say that right before the pandemic broke, we were in the process of possibly creating a half-time job. So I don't know where that's going to end up. I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful for the rest of you in that regard as well. So I'm also working on my certification in iRest meditation, and iRest is something that we have brought in. In fact, I should say that the pay that I started off with as a consultant kind of grew and changed. They, as a center, wrote a grant for behavioral health and received it. They were able to hire art therapists who also has a degree in psychology, and they were able to pay me to teach iRest meditation out of that grant as well. So at that point, I added a day to the amount of time I was coming. And then later on, they already had a music and memory certification through Music and Memory. I think it's musicandmemory.com or something like that. They already had that certification, so we built on that. And they had been getting some funding via that program from another source outside of their behavioral health program. And they noticed that I'm a singer, I love music, I can read music, and that I tried to incorporate it into my classes. And sometimes we had some phenomenal things happen. So they asked me if I would add a day, and maybe we would write some grant money for that. So now I'm teaching the meditation one day a week under the behavioral health grant, and I'm teaching yoga and music combined under another grant, a music and memory grant. So, so I'm there 3 days a week teaching when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. So the population at Mercy is very, very diverse. There are Spanish language clients. There's also by race, it's very diverse. There are people of every color there. So this is Carmen, who was a Bonner Scholar from a local college that I also work at, who's can speak Spanish, working with 2 clients that aren't Spanish native speakers, using a script of iRest under my direction, because she can speak it better than I can, for them. And this is an example of one of the side rooms that we go into right now for smaller groups. I started off with smaller groups, and now I'm back to smaller groups. There was one point, and you'll see some pictures, where we did program for the entire room. So it can work in both ways. And I guess I should say that this is group yoga therapy, and the thing that they all have in common is aging and memory issues. So this is an example of how you might work with meditation. And you'll notice they're not all just sitting in a meditative pose. They're looking at her heart. Some of them have their eyes open, and you just have to be okay with whatever. It's their meditation, it's their time. So however it works. And I think they were in some degrees amazed at what she was saying, because they had heard me say the same thing in English and not known what I was saying. And now they were actually understanding what it was that I had been saying to them all this time. So, but while she was doing this, I would be in the other room leading an English group. In the other small room, there were 2 of them. So we would gather blood pressures, and noticed that they generally were lower after meditation, unless there was some sort of incident triggering outside of the room. You know, and that, like I said, does happen from time to time. We like to keep the words simple, and iRest is great because it's scripted. And as I said, consistency is very, very important. Routine is very, very important. So iRest provides that. As far as yoga is concerned, here are some of the things that I found rather important. Routine variation is very limited. And I will tell you, and I'm sure that many of you understand this, that as a teacher of yoga, that can get monotonous. But it's also wonderful when you see someone remember something they're not supposed to remember. And when they do, because of that routine, it's it's all inspiring, and it's a wonderful experience to have. But it can be rather boring. So just be prepared for that and know that you're doing their brains a lot of good and just being there and repeating for them. They also have a almost like an aerobics, old school 70s or 80s vintage kind of aerobics, but senior level video, audio that they do every day. And if they don't do it, they complain. And the staff just rolls their eyes. It's very much, it's just dated. But yet they like it. And it's that routine that they crave. Below here is Miss Brenda, and she is in the room with me every single time. She takes blood pressures after our meditation. We're collecting that as anecdotal data, just to keep the grant, really, to show that it's working, to show a data point that is working. Just smile and be happy, and let their joy become your joy as you're there. Just be with them, be in their space, learn their names and their quirks. I know certain people are going to, what their balance issues are. I greet them with their names as much as I can, help them down the hall to the room. Some traditionally stop at the bathroom on the way there. Some traditionally stop on the way back. I know some that will leave in the middle of class, and that's okay. Some that are grumpy, some that are always happy, some that have certain words or certain questions that they'll ask every single time. But it's all, they're just wonderful. They're full of joy. Respect the staff and be helpful to them. When I first started, I was not allowed to touch them, not allowed to help them down the hall. And over the past 9 years, we've gotten to a place where I am now allowed to assist in moving them into their rooms. And occasionally, if there's something else going on in the building, I feel comfortable being alone in the room. But I do classes for the staff. If they have a in-service day for themselves, they'll sometimes ask me to come lead a iRest meditation or lead a yoga class. So be aware of those opportunities for yourself as well. And that's, I think, all part of the therapeutic process of helping a center like this be successful. I'd like you to notice a couple things in this picture. Number one, where my front leg is in this warrior one, it's wrapped around the side, as is the lady in the background. Her leg is kind of wrapped around the side. When you work with this population, it is impossible to have chairless or armless chairs. They need that for balance, to move in and out of the chairs. But what I have found is that if you can find chairs that have a 3/4 length arm, so that there's a little bit of a space at the end of the chair, you can see the chair in the background turned sideways. You can see how the arm doesn't come all the way to the edge of the chair, and that allows you to turn sideways more easily than if that came all the way to the edge and you're just kind of stuck. And I do teach at centers where that's the case. That's all we have, and we just make do with what we have. But this is preferred chair style if you can get it. And just know that you're never going to get armless chairs because they need it for balance, moving in and out of the chairs. The other thing is, the gentleman in the background is actually in a wheelchair, and he is still doing what he can. He's got one arm that doesn't work very well. He's got a foot on the floor and a foot on the chair. I think his brakes are always on. If you're working with chairs, make sure that their brakes are on. Some people prefer to then put their feet on the ground. Some people don't. It's kind of a personal preference, but I don't pick on alignment a lot with this population. You don't always know what's going on in their bodies, who's had a hip replacement, who's been fused in their back, who's had a shoulder issue. So just allow the alignment to go at this point. And staff may try to encourage them to look like you. Encourage the staff to stop that and to just let that go and to let them just be. It's more important that they get some movement rather than they get beautiful movement, and just let their bodies do what their bodies will do. So there will also be some that won't participate. This is much like teaching children in that regard. A lot of times when you start, somebody will just watch for a while, and then they will later on begin participating, or maybe they won't ever. Maybe they're just enjoying getting a break from the other things that have been going on in the room, or maybe there's somebody else that they needed to have some time or a break away from, and they're getting that, or they're getting some quiet. You know, the meditative parts of this, you know, maybe that's something that they benefit from. So encourage, but don't worry about it if somebody's just sitting there. You know, the next time they may be the most active one, or maybe they never are. Either way, it's all good. And I can't stress this enough. I know that there are a lot of you out there who are not in favor of having music in a yoga class. And I do understand that, even as a person who is deeply in love with music. I understand that there are some classes that just need to be silent, and there's a place for that. I personally, when I teach a regular yoga class, I prefer music that doesn't have singing in it, because I find that my voice and the voice of the singer are just too much. However, when working with this population, music is a must. And I just want to point out that, you know, we talked about where the disease progression is. It's almost like a ring of fire all around the edges of the brain. The medial temporal lobe, the frontal lobe are affected a lot by this, but the auditory cortex is in the superior temporal lobe, right in the middle. And although I could not find, I'm sure that's out there, but I could not find anything that specifically says that it's the part of the brain that's unaffected. Music stays with these people, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how involved with music they were as they came up in life. Their eyes light up. You know, that's the other one of the things in getting to know the clients. I know whose music is who likes what. I know if I play Al Green, that one particular lady is going to just wake up no matter how sleepy she seemed like she was. And that's just something that happens, and it's incredible to watch. So I would like you to now watch someone come to life. And this is a video, it's going to be about 5 minutes long, about Henry.
Online.
I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know.
Okay, it's Jerry.
How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years. He was having seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly, because he was always, you know, fun-loving, singing, you know, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do Singing in the Rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, you know, he was good. He was always into music, you know, always loved singing, dancing.
His name is Henry Dreyer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking more or less for religious music for him.
Okay.
Because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed,
unresponsive and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah.
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What's up to you for me?
Let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression. His eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened, he's being brought to life.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah.
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have none, I mean.
Do you like music?
Yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound. Beautiful.
Did you play music when you were, did you like music when you were young?
Yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
Well, I guess, Cab Calloway was my number one band guy I liked.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present wrapped around your tree. Ow!
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love. No mass. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music in. Beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, dream. Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let me see. Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet and kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is significant for you in something as big as a matchbox or whatever. And I think this may be very, very important in helping to animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
I'm going to share one more with you. This happens at Mercy Care regularly. So the gentleman that's playing the guitar has early onset Alzheimer's, I believe. The lady in front has other health issues, maybe a little bit of dementia as she ages.
All right, no.
That'll warm you up.
Let's twist again, like we did last summer.
That'll warm you up.
Let's twist again, like we did last year. Well, come on, baby. Let's do the twist.
So you can see this is their main day room that they're in. There's recliners, and when I teach in this room, you know, many of them stay in the recliner. Some prefer a chair like the gentleman with the guitar has. I actually prefer those chairs. When we teach in the private room, those are the chairs that I mainly use, are those. And it's a great facility to be at. I can't say enough, obviously. So we're back here. So adding music, you know, so we got this grant to add music into the classes that I teach there. And the first thing I did was to interview each client individually and find out what kind of music they liked. And I made sure that their favorite songs or their favorite artists were included in a playlist. That became a huge playlist of songs. It was almost too much. But out of using that playlist, I was able to kind of figure out what their favorite things were. What songs didn't work, what songs did work. Elvis is awesome always. Stevie Wonder also is awesome always with this particular group. You know, you got to remember that seniors nowadays, the guy in the video, Henry, Cap Calloway was his stuff, but I think that video is a bit dated. Seniors nowadays grew up in the 50s, 60s. So, you know, they can tell you about, some of them can tell you about Woodstock. It's not like we think of them being really old. So their music is going to be not that different from my music or your music. It's going to be, you know, maybe some of the oldies that we like, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of really relaxing yoga music in these classes. In fact, if I compare when I play yoga music, you know, typical yoga music, to when I play their music in a class, I get more activity when I play their music. The twist that you just heard is a regular thing. When we're doing a twist in yoga class, I put that song on and we twist. We do a dynamic twist sitting in a chair to it. So there's just things to consider with that. So what happened was that original long playlist I had got whittled down. And then I started going out to Pandora and setting up channels. I just did like an Elvis channel or a Stevie Wonder channel, or sometimes I'll just you go play their top hits, and I won't actually have set songs. If I need a set song, I have something else that I can pull those set songs in with, and you know, like the twist would be one. And then at the end of every class, and I started this before the grant actually began. It was kind of one of the reasons that the grant kind of got funded, is I have two particular songs in there, modern religious songs. They're by an artist named Stephen Curtis Chapman. And they're two songs that really helped me at a difficult time in my life. And I started playing them back to back for the clients at the end of class as a music meditation, and incredible things started happening. I feel fortunate that I was able to do that because I'm in a Catholic center, so I could play Christian music and it was okay. This lady is not the lady that this anecdotal thing happened to, but she is a regular attendee in the class, and I just love her. She could teach the class. She's been there so many times. But anyway, I added the music as a meditation. I have one client who whistles all the time. She can whistle anything you ask her to whistle. But she whistles things that she remembers for the most part. She doesn't, obviously, she can't whistle something if she's not heard it before, she doesn't remember it. But she also will 5 minutes after class say to me, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know where I am. And this lady who said that to me one day, right afterwards, started whistling the song she had just listened to, even though she had completely lost where she was. And I think I maybe started crying the first time that happened, because she is the epitome of what it's like to have 50 first dates in your class. She remembers she has no short-term memory, and for her to have heard this song enough times over the course of 6 months to then start whistling it, it was a pretty incredible moment. And I don't know why, other than the middle of that brain is just not damaged as much as the rest. So perhaps there's something being stored there. I don't know. I'm very curious about it. We continue to keep anecdotal notes. I don't know if you can see me in the little corner. This is my little book. Every time I meet with them, I write down who was there to take attendance. And I write down any of my observations of them. I write down what music I play. And I write down their observations of the class. And I'm very curious about all this and about exactly what's happening. And I wish I had a better answer for you. One other little thing that I'd like to share that happened with the same client is she came for iRest meditation one day. I don't do any kind of music in that class. And she started whistling the same song. And I'd like to add that this is a song that she was not familiar with before I started playing it in class. She had never heard it before in her life. We have pretty much gotten that information from her caregiver that it's a brand new song to her as of when I started playing it. So we can eliminate things by putting her in different situations. And, is it the room? Is it me? Is it the feeling, or the what is it? What is it that's causing this? I don't know. But looking at this intersection of yoga, music, somatics and music, and meditation, and all of this together, and being in this wonderful place and making these memories with these wonderful clients has been an honor for me. And it's been an honor for me to share it with you here today. Unfortunately, I'm out of time and I don't have time to share practice with you. However, I do have a YouTube channel. It's Beth Novian Hughes. If you look at YouTube, you can find it. Within there's a playlist of all my yoga teachings. And within that playlist, there's a video of chair and office yoga. So it's not all towards seniors. There's some stuff that's maybe a little bit more advanced mixed in there, but it gives you a good flavor of the kinds of things we're doing. We're doing a lot of joint freeing, and all that is important at that age as well. So I'll leave you with that to go look at. Just remember my name and go Google that with YouTube, and you should be able to find it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy Global Yoga Therapy Day, and namaste. Have a great day.